And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the NRG series. We're jumping into round number 4 of Modern Action. My name's Wahoo. That there, that's Corbin Hostler. No doubt, that's right. You know him from Mining Modern back in the day. Love to see that show. But we got a lot of players in the room, Corbin. We got 177, right? And they're all battling it out. And they are trying to get themselves on some certain leaderboards. So we're going to start off by looking at that leaderboard and seeing what position everyone is at and who's already qualified. So everyone in yellow is already qualified. That means they've won a tournament this year to get to an end of an invite. But talk to me about the rest of this board.
Yeah, this is where you want to be. This is the overall leaderboard for the 2024 NRG series. This is accumulated by playing events throughout the season. It sounds kind of obvious, but what that means is that you can get points and you can play for something even if you're not winning a tournament. Even if you don't top 8 a tournament, you can still accumulate something meaningful, and that's points to get on this leaderboard, which can then qualify you if you are able to climb it for the end of the year tournament, which is, of course, as you mentioned, a $35,000 prize pool, just an absolutely massive invitational at the end of the season. And you can see, as you mentioned, some of the players, they qualified directly for that event by winning tournaments. But these other players, no trophies this season anyway, but still very much in the running. And that's really, I think, the draw and the appeal of these tournament series, right? Is that you're able to build something and that your O2 drops, or even, I drew really bad in the last 2 rounds and it kind of wrecked the end of my tournament. Like, they don't feel quite as bad when you still get to take something home with you. And those are leaderboard points. And that is why you see so many players working so hard to get onto here, including some of the best up and coming players and just best current players, period, I should say, in the region.
Yeah, there's just so much going on. As you mentioned, basically, it rewards top 16 finishes, top 32 finishes, right? Things where you're like, oh, I've mint cash, but no, but I managed to get those extra points I needed, which add up through the season. You don't know if that is going to be the difference between you getting in the end of year or not getting in the end of year. And of course, the winner on this leaderboard also becomes the MVP, also gets all year invites paid for, because they are the MVP. So, it's going to save you a bit of money. Let's have one quick look at just the players that are already qualified, who are already, we will be seeing in the invitation at the end of the year. That is a stacked lineup and some amazing photos of some great players. Who are your standouts here?
Yeah, we are working our way through that list. Now, obviously, I'm going to give my boy Jonathan Zakchek a Nikachu a shout out for Mofolk. But look, that is a collection of some of the best players around. We've seen Dominic Harvey already this weekend doing very well. We've seen May French crush in the past of these events. Harrison Canfor is, of course, on top of the leaderboard right now. This is just Dykeman, of course, a master of the series. 12 seats remain. Everything you want is coming in this qualified. If you can qualify for this end of the year event, $35,000 prize pool, 12 seats remain, and we're going to get closer to rewarding some of them right now.
Yeah, let's get to see which 2 players we've got in our feature match ready to go. Of course, they are trying their hardest to get there at 3-0 records. Looks like we have got Gruul Prowess versus Esper Reanimator. Okay, now these are some decks that we haven't seen yet. I have been promised that there is no Nadu this round for everybody watching, so you're going to be happy about that. Gruul Prowess, is this just what we saw in the last round? It's basically mono red Prowess.
Yes, we are back to this. I think we're rocking Manamorphos in this list. Go ahead.
No. Keep looking at that list. Keep looking at that list. There's 4 copies of a certain card maybe ready for this meta. There's 4 harsh mentors in the main deck.
Oh. You know what, Will? That's a great call. I was like, what am I missing? I'm going right past the creatures. I just assume it's the stock creatures. You're right. It's 4 harsh mentors in the main.
It's really nice about it because it's also playing 2 copies of Wild Slash, which, of course, Wild Slash, once you have ferocious damage, can't be prevented. So that's another way of getting through the 1 ring later on in the game if we can get our creatures big enough. So this seems like a really cool deck, and especially how it's built. But can Ryan kind of build this board state? Needs to find a threat, needs to turn everything sideways, because these are Esper Reanimator lists. Once they get one of the big 7-powered lifelinkers on the battlefield, it is going to be hard for Ryan to win this match.
Yeah, the Reanimator deck, I think, is probably, to me, the single most interesting deck design in Modern right now, because Goryo's Vengeance has existed in Modern since the very beginning. People were getting Gristlebrands and stuff back with it, right? People were finding ways to make it work, even though it was very difficult, right? As a reanimation spell goes, it's more tricky. At the
Mhm.
same time, these Esper control-ish, whatever you want to call them, decks also kind of existed. And then somewhere along the line, we just hit on, I guess it was Atraxa being the inflection point of the kind of being jammed together, and the resulting Esper Reanimator lists now have gotten to the point where they're not necessarily Reanimator decks that only exist to do the one thing and play a ton of like cards that, a bunch of faithless looting type effects only, just simply to try to power this one thing. They're just decks of value cards that, oh, by the way, have this Atraxa in them. Psychic Frog is a perfectly powerful card on turn 2 without the threat of it just ditching an Atraxa for you to reanimate it with Goryo's Vengeance immediately. And that's, I think, what's really fascinating about the Reanimator decks and where they've fallen into the metagame.
Yeah, like it is that value. It's kind of got like the kicker is it's a reanimate this, but I've also got this value engine of Ephemerate plus Grief, Ephemerate plus Solitude. Psychic Frog gives us a whole new element now of being able to ditch my bad cards, make it bigger while drawing me new cards, especially in a format full of lots of damage-based removal. You see that, we got a couple of galvanic discharges in hand here for Ryan. Like one of these gets targeted, cool, I'll just ditch 4 cards. I'm going to hit you for 4 every turn. I'm going to refill my hand. Like Psychic Frog is probably one of my favorite cards printed in MH3. And then we're going to fire it off with a ending to get the Swift Spear out of here by the looks of it. Don't know if we've got a replay, but the next thing I was going to mention, we're doing it to get energy. Okay. Is these Reanimator lists got a big upgrade when Surveil lands got printed.
Yes.
The ability of turn 1 Surveil land, turn 2 Goyos, boom.
It enabled the Dream Draw.
Okay, we're going to put this Giganto in hand. Do you have free energy?
There's been a couple interesting things here so far. As I say, that those discharges for Ryan are pretty dead, and he recognized that as well. That's why we pointed a discharge just to get energy at our creature as it got removed by the Esper deck there. So now, as the things stand, it's Isaac's untapping 16 life. Ryan, did what you could do when you get Thoughtseize. You kind of got some dead cards. But you're a little behind the eight ball just by your opening hand, and then I guess Harsh Mentor against Psychic Frog isn't nothing. There we go. He gets debates it out, I guess, if you want to look at it that way.
I love the flinch there from Isaac.
Graveyard.
Like the second that Harsh Mentor played, Isaac kind of twitched. It was like, "What? This is game 1, right? Is that main deck?" He's like, "Yes, exactly. It is." But ditching that Atraxa, having the Goyos in hand, gonna return this. This is gonna be the big 7/7 Phyrexian General herself. Here comes the trigger. So we get to look at the top 10, pick one of each card type into our hand. And it's got haste as well, which is pretty good, being able to gain 7 life in the face of these aggro decks.
Well, interesting. Ryan, wasn't sure about whether he'd have a target for that discharge, and the Psychic Frog hits play. But the thing is, even if you kill the Psychic Frog there, hitting the Atraxa with the Goryo's, like, this is all so devastating for Ryan, just in sort of a general sense, that it's not impossible to come back from, but almost the closest thing to it. Not least of which is because the life gain kind of matters, right? From Atraxa against your Prowess deck. One of the ways you'd want to try to win with the Prowess deck is if you can get some damage in, and then even if your opponent pulls off an Atraxa turn, well, I'll just try to finish it off the next turn. But gaining life matters.
We didn't find the Ephemerate. Like, that's the card we'd really like to find here, right? Because then we can get a hit in with the Atraxa, then Ephemerate it, flip it a little bit. We've got a lot of cards in hand here. This could potentially be 6. But the damage is done. Like, you're sure. Yeah, you got my
little shrug there. Yeah.
Take the 7. That drop's going to drop Ryan down to 11. That's going to put Isaac back up to 22. Quick math, Will. Now, how can we rebuild? I think we've got another Goyos in hand at least that I saw. So if we can get another fatty in the graveyard, we'll be good. Is that
well? And that's an interesting question here. And Ryan picking up the graveyard to look at that as well. I see the frog, but Isaac kind of did everything, but now Isaac has nothing, right? You did everything you wanted, has cards. and is in fact going to Solitude pitch Solitude here
Hmm.
to hit the Harsh Mentor. So comfortable burning through cards. I see a Gristle brand in hand as well for Isaac. So may not actually have all that much gas.
Yeah, it's a full 4 copies in the main for everybody kind of tuning in, and that's why Isaac kind of saw it when he saw it. He was like, "Oh, what?" I don't hate it. I like it. I think it's good. You know what I mean? In this sort of meta, this environment we're at, the last weekend, that potentially
Yeah.
we're going to see Nadu. You're going to think a lot of people are going to be bringing it. Why not pick those cyber cards in the main and just try and carry yourself a few more free wins?
Yeah, never going to be better.
All right, this is when I have a look at a little graveyard. Normally, when people do this, this isn't a sign of good news for me. I think we were counting all the different types because if we do, we have the ability to discard a card. I think is what we were looking. We can draw 2, potentially discard 1 if there is less than 5 different mana values in the graveyard. But I'm pretty sure we're past that point at this point in this game.
And that Tainted Indulgence is one of the reasons that the deck doesn't have to play a lot of Faithless Lootings that are like fine, but it's inherently not card advantage. You get to play something like Tainted Indulgence, which comes out a little cleaner and can be played in a really fair way. But here's one. How about some Modern Horizons 3 Waterlogged Teachings? I believe that is. The
Yep, you're
backside of
right.
that is a land. The front side is going to go get an instant or sorcery, or I believe that is what it can get, and it's going to get Goryo's Vengeance. That
Well, I
is
say I just read that whole card as it's a 4 mana Goya's Vengeance. Like that's how I read this card.
yes, that is it's mystical teachings, right? It's a little riff on mystical teachings, I think. And
This is game 1. So
yeah. And so that's the power of having access to that in your land. Isaac was really uh not he just didn't have a ton going on. He wasn't necessarily in trouble, but was spinning his wheels a little bit, needed to get something. And that's essentially a land drop that he was able to use as a tutor to give him everything he needed. And now obviously Gristle brand off of Goryo's Vengeance. This should just turn it sideways and in the game. But what a Modern Horizons 3 ad. You get a land or a game-winning tutor when games happen to go weird.
So we're going to lightning bolt here before the damage is dealt by Gristlebrand, because potentially you could draw another 7. Decided to discard this force of negation to put a +1/+1 counter on it, which will put it out of reach of that lightning bolt. One Sonny wants to do anything in response to the fire off double lightning bolt. You got to do what you got to do, but unfortunately, what you got to do is get hit by this Gristlebrand, dropping you down to 6 life, letting my opponent gain 7 life, and probably a full grip of cards.
One, because also keep in mind Gristlebrand drawing cards that you can then throw away to Psychic Frog. So
Yeah. That's why we did it all before
pretty
damage, right?
good, right? As an addition to the deck. Like, keep in mind, everyone, like this is a new angle to the deck that it didn't have before. It's the power of
Oof.
Psychic Frog
How about
to
14
just
cards?
naturally assist with everything the deck already does.
40, like I was thinking, like we need a good way of getting some of these fatties into the graveyard. Well, if we just draw 14 cards, there's a good chance of it. We know about the last card in hand being that Giganta, so Grief Ditching Grief is going to get rid of it. We're going to shock in the white source we need, ephemerate the Gristlebrand. It's going to come back. That's going to be game 1. Isaac taking this down. Okay.
Mainly.
It's, you know, I mean, Harsh Mentor didn't look too great in that matchup, but this isn't the matchup for it. We've got sideboards for this exact reason. So let's see if we can start off over on Ryan's side, see what cards he does have. Any graveyard interaction. And I see 4 copies of Soul Guide Lantern.
I think those will be coming in because that is that's what you need. We saw the reason the Esper Reanimator deck is so good. It was able to interact with the board and with the hand while doing something broken on the back end, and that is what you have to interact with. If you're Ryan, is to stop from doing the unfair thing, and that's where the Soul Guide Lanterns come in, able to snipe the graveyard. Although it does require you, I mean, it is a cost. You might have to slow down a little bit, but we saw he galvanic discharged his own creatures in that matchup. You clearly have some cards that you can you go a different direction in with your sideboard slots here. So I don't know. He may also look to like the other new addition here, right? There's a Disruptor Flute. Is a new sideboard edition. There's the one Blood Moon you see, the Cinder Vines. So he's got a lot to look at here, but I really think it's just those Soul Guide Lanterns are where you want to be, and then maybe you start to consider like attacking their mana via Blood Moon. or
I feel like
further
Blood
disruption.
Moon's not a bad way to go about it either. You know, this is a 3-colored deck, so it is very greedy on its mana. Doesn't say they don't play basics. They do have a 1 basic of each color, but Blood Moon 9 out of 10 times can kind of get them, and then they've got nothing else to do. But it's just going to be a hard matchup, right? Like, we need to have our interaction to their game plan, and unfortunately, our game plan is playing creatures and turn them sideways. And if I'm playing a deck that's got solitudes and ephemerates, it is going to be a hard day in the office
Yeah.
if your name is Ryan Overturf.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's that just, and I was thinking, I was going to say along the lines of, you can do Goryo's Vengeance tricks. It's instant speed. Like, you can do all kinds of tricky stuff with it that makes it hard to play against. But you're right. You can also just ephemerate a Solitude and decimate the red deck, and then have lifelink, and that'll win you the game too.
Well, let's have a little look at the Goyo's list. Let's see what's going on here. So, anything out of the normals? This looks pretty stock to me. Oh, there's one card we could talk about that. I'm seeing a bit more play in recent times, and that is this Emperor of Bones. So again, another MH3 card. Seeing a few decks pick this one up now. Is one of there's a few flex slots in this deck. They're using this. So this is a 2/2 for 2. At the beginning of combat on your turn, exile up to 1 target card from a graveyard. It's got 1/1 black, adapt 2. Whenever 1 or more +1/+1 counters are put on Emperor of Bones, put a creature card exile with Emperor of Bones onto the battlefield under your control with a finality counter on it. It gains haste, sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. So it's like a 5th Goya's Vengeance if you can get it right.
And it just naturally exiles, right? There are worse things in the world than in this. We talked about this Esper deck being a mid-rangey deck that can also do an unfair thing. Well, there's worse things than just playing a 2-drop that hates on graveyards that also is going to threaten something in the long game, right? So it's just a one of, right? It goes in there with the Priest of Felrites as sort of these flex 2-drop spots that give you additional flex reanimation ways, right? To interact, and that's what they exist there for. And they tie the deck together pretty nicely. Like I said, this deck actually so many tricky ways to play, so many things to consider. I remember some high stakes matches I played against this deck. Just so many lines that you have to think about when you're playing against it, especially from a deck that has Force of Negation, right? So yeah, lots to think about here. But looking at the sideboard, right, we see Wrath of the Skies. You might want something like that. I think we'll probably definitely be interested in the Celestial Purges.
Oh,
There's
100%.
additional remover with Prismatic Ending, right? So definitely just ways for this deck to play more or less a fair game of Magic, contain the red deck, and then try to reanimate it in Traxa.
That's the first goal, right? Is survive. Like, we are the control deck in this matchup. A control deck that can turn to a Griselbrand. No biggie. No, it's not scary at all. Around the Pro Tour type time when I was speaking to a lot of the players, they thought this was the deck that was like had a good Nadu matchup. They felt like this. If I could redo it over again, knowing the meta that I was going into, this is kind of one of the decks that would be high on our radar to moving forward. So it's interesting to see that Isaac wanted to pick it up this weekend. It's currently now 3-0, 1 game up. Both players kept their opening 7. Ryan on the plate, got a turn 1 play by the looks of it.
Yeah, I think that's a great point you made too about it having regardless of what the actual percentages of the matchup turn out to be, like conceptually, the idea of building your deck to interact with something while having this package of reanimation that more or less ends the game on the spot is very attractive, just sort of from a structural standpoint of attacking the format. Because you can do things like that. You just Prismatic Ending their Soulscar Mage on turn 1, and you're bridged for at least one more turn as you set up. You see Tainted Indulgence and Isaac Sand. He's kind of got the game plan enacted.
Yeah, does have a basic in hand as well. It's gonna be interesting if they respect Blood Moon or not. But shout out about these shock lands as well. I've just upgraded to these shock lands, the retro bordered shocks. I'm all about that.
Retro bordered
Ryan's
cards
like, no,
are up there. They're great. I'm not gonna lie.
Ryan's on the OGs and signed.
So there's a few levels here, but this is the correct art and play for everybody.
I'm down for it. Chat, let me know what's your favorite. What shocks do you use? What's the best shocks? And all the flute came in, like you said.
I really enjoy expedition lands. Those are my favorite, or really like basically any full art version of a land. Like it's
Okay.
great. I love it.
Yeah, they are beautiful, especially when they first came out in like Zendikar type time. I was like, what are these? I need them all and I need them now. And then I was like,
Right?
I can't afford them. Cry in a corner.
I think the galaxy foils from Unfinity are somehow actually my favorite. It's very
Yeah.
kind of obscure, but they look really. It's the only thing in the set that's cool, but they're really cool.
Yeah, the Galaxy ones, they are top. That's a top tier shock. So tap 3, pitch again in hand.
This game is played out very differently, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's we've got rid of those harsh mentals and we've replaced it with flutes. End of turn, we're going to put that Griselbrand in the graveyard, exactly where we want it to be. No graveyard hate yet from Ryan. This would be a turn to get it out of the graveyard, and I do see a Goyo's in hand, but we
Yeah,
want to get
also
full
grief in
value.
hand for Isaac. Like honestly, a lot of options, and instead choosing to take control route here gets rid of the flute. Huh.
So these decks can play the explosive two
Yeah,
mana, but just next turn, Isaac can just go, cool, I'm going to grief you, hard cast.
exactly.
I've got a blocker. I can take a card from your hand. I know what's going on. Next turn, cool. I'll just get back my Griselbrand from the graveyard and run away with the game.
I'm very curious what's going on in Ryan's hand right here because Ryan is playing. Let's remember, Ryan is playing 1-drops that attack and slick shock show offs and lots of things that don't involve playing 4 lands and passing the turn. Uh, I don't know what to make of it. I mean, obviously, it's possible he's just turbo mana flooded here.
It's going to be all
But
lightning
maybe we'll
bolts.
find out because here comes grief.
All lightning bolts and galvanic blast.
Yep.
That looks exactly the same as last turn. Looks like we've got the 5th land, the Giganta, 2 galvanic discharges, and 1 card I can't quite make out. That might be an unstable amulet.
It's another land, right? Yeah.
Oh, it was lightning bolt. I have all the cards I couldn't name.
one.
It was lightning bolt. Classic. Get back here's the Goyos. Griselbrand's going to crash in for 7 points.
And this is now having seen Ryan's hand, and knowing that despite how good Galvanic Discharge is, you still can't get the Griselbrand.
Even if you did, you'd have to triple. You'd have to free for one yourself in that situation, which just isn't great anyway.
There's no good answers here. This is a Esper Reanimator textbook, by the way. Esper Reanimator. It looking like it might put Isaac to 4-0 here.
So let me have a little look at Isaac's list a second. Do we have there's some spicy lists running around with Ulamogs in the main as like one of the reanimation targets, but no, he's gone for the full 4 Traxxas, 2 Griselbrands. Sometimes instead of the 4 for Traxxas, they play an Ulamog.
Yeah.
So you return an Ulamog with 7 exiled counters and just turn it sideways and get Annihilator 7, do 14 damage. It's pretty sweet to see that happen. Sucks to be on the receiving end of it.
Yeah, well, it does.
Here comes the Ephemerate, slamming that one down. So that's going to go. I was going to say on an adventure. It's not an adventure. It's a rebound. It goes to exile. We'll come back momentarily. And just going to discard this land in a turn past turn. How can we respond here over on Ryan's side? It's just land go. Not ideal.
Yeah, you kind of decide if you pick up your graveyard before your lands or your lands before your graveyard and you scoop. About the point of the game you're at with this Griselbrand turning sideways again.
How do you do it? Do you do graveyard lands or lands graveyard?
I think I pick them up left and right and do a scoop them together motion.
A mush?
I'm thinking this through.
Well, that's going to be enough for Ryan. He's seen enough. It just turns out big 7/7 lifelinkers are not good when you're trying to reduce your opponent's life total with just little baby Swift Spears. Here it is. It is what it is. This is magic. It's fine. That means he's going to drop to a 3-1. Isaac's going to go to a 4-0. Halfway there. In 8 rounds today till we get to that top 8. So just being able to get to across the midpoint now, you'll be happy with 4-0. I'd be happy with 3-1 to be fair, but 4-0, you've got to be happy.
Well, especially when you start talking about, this is a tournament. Tiebreakers matter. You can get draws at the end. You say halfway there. you're really close, right? You can get to 5-0, 6-0, and you're really there. So excellent position for Izaak moving forward. We'll have a handful of those players, I imagine. We had 177 players in this tournament, so we should be, working our way down. You do the math there. And we're going to be getting to another one of those
Yeah.
undefeated matches coming up. I believe our second match is ready for us.
That's the good thing about this round in particular. We wanted it to have both, to show both feature matches, because there's no Nardu
Right.
this round, ladies and gentlemen. So let's get down to our backup feature match, find out who's in there and what decks they are on. Looks like we got Ted on Boris Energy, saw them last round, and they go up against Brandon on Gruul Breach. That is not Gruul Breach. That is not the opening of Gruul Breach. That is definitely a Tron list of some description. Let me have a little look at this deck list. This is,
Yeah, I would say we like everyone are at the mercy of what players name their decks online, and online can be fickle. So instead of Gruul Breach, you instead get to watch an Eldrazi deck
it's
taking
through the
on
breach.
the properly named Boros
Oh no,
Energy.
technically Gruul Breach works. It does have red and green lands, and it does have a card that's got breach in it. So technically, I'll take it. It's not what I thought, but I'll take it. This is a through the breach version where they're trying to throw 15 Emrakals at your face.
Yeah, and
That's
I'm looking at this deck list more closely now. Grove of the Burn Willows showing up in the mana base. I haven't seen that one in a while. This is kind of a throwback breach list. Brandon MacArthur 3-0 with it here, and he's getting to stack how he wants things to begin. But yeah, look, we're talking Kozilek's Return. You remember what that one does, Will?
Oh, do I know what that one does? Oh, that is a good card. I enjoy that card a lot. I remember Groves of Blue, when we were playing that, because
Yeah.
Death Shadow was one of the best decks in the format, and the idea of giving them life was a disadvantage to them. So we're playing these lands, making sure that the Death Shadows aren't as big as they think they're going to be.
Yeah. Yeah. What a heck of a card. But yeah, so this is going to be a fascinating matchup. And obviously, it can do this Eldrazi stuff. You see the Talisman hitting play. So, look, that's like access to a ton of mana
Dude,
when Brandon untaps here. And he's just staring down in a Johnny. I
we can
guess it
breach
could be
Emrakul this
worse.
turn.
Go ahead.
We can literally breach Emrakul. If we've got the land drop this turn, we just go land drop, breach, Emrakul, Annihilator 6, 15 damage. I don't think we've got that both parts to combo. I do see a 1 ring in hand. That could be a way of stopping the board state for a little bit, or at least keeping our life total high. Let us go a few cards deeper to try and get to our combo.
And I've fooled around a bunch with breach decks in modern over the years with through the breach decks, not underworld breach decks. The 1 ring was massive for just the type of decks it goes into, because you need something else in that sort of mid spot of your mana curve. But also it still just gets there. Like through the breach, if you're not familiar, and you actually do it on an opponent's end step, put your creature, your Emrakul into play, and then untap with it and attack to get to play around your opponent having interaction on your turn. There's a lot of things you can do with it that gives the deck a lot of resiliency. However, right now it looks at a blood moon for Ted. That's it, to kind of change how things are going to work.
That is definitely going to change. That means that Gemstone Caverns. So that's the one, the card you see at the top of your screen. That's again one of the alternate art of it. I think that's what the Lord of the Rings one.
Yes.
Again, but we do have that talisman, so that will give us colorless mana if we ever did need it to cast any of our spells. It just stops the ramp element of these Eldrazi decks. Our Eldrazi temples are now generating 1 mana. This Labyrinth 1 mana instead of potentially having 2 per card. Can we deploy more on the battlefield? We don't have any white sources on Ted's side.
Yeah, this is a really interesting board state, that's for sure. Fable and Mirror Breaker will eventually get him some white mana.
This card's so good. It's been good for so long. It was no one had this on their radar when it's first printed yet.
Sure.
It was dominant for so long in so many different formats, all the way up to Legacy. It even had, I'm not wrong thing. This one, it's got banned in one format, right? Did it get banned in standard, or am I just
banned in standard? Yeah.
Yeah, like it's that powerful. It does everything. It makes a creature. That creature makes mana. we can then loot a couple of cards from it. We bit the bad cards away, give us fresh looks. And then it turns into a Kiki Jiki. I can start copying all my good creatures. Really good card, really solid, 3 mana, play design, take your hats off. That is a good one. But you know what also is good? Is that Kozilek's return that you mentioned.
It sure will be against the red white small creatures deck. That's for sure.
Oh, dude, it hurts.
Yeah. So no, Fable is also interesting and great because most cards in the current era take, for instance, I'm just going to pick one at random here, say Nadu. The community was able to look at it and instantly recognize that that card was just busted, right? We were able to build that deck in a week because you just get millions of Magic players around the world. There's a lot of brain power. Fable the Mirror Breaker was not previewed, and everyone just said, "Oh, that card's busted. That's way too good. That's going to be the best card in Pioneer." Like whether it's because it's a saga and we weren't as familiar with it, or what, like it really slipped under the radar in the sense that everyone kind of played it, and it felt like it took a long time for people to realize that, hey, this card isn't just like good and a filler. This is actually just the best card that makes these decks work.
Well, here's another one that we've, MH3 card that we're seeing here. This is a Sowing Micros one. So this gets to destroy a land on your opponent's side and also gain you a land if you use the kicker ability of it, which we do have the color spanner from it, from that talisman at the top. So we're going to see a land destroyed or a land gained from it, hitting us with 3 mana up. I keep thinking there's that Blood Moon still on the battlefield. But here's a nice little play. Raptor flipping over the Ajani.
Yeah, you mentioned no white mana, but don't need it if you play it with energy. Although with Ajani in play, it's not quite as devastating as it could be. But there you called it out.
Jeez, this is so. I think they're talking about the timing of this. I think because the Ajani's on the battlefield, 2 Ajani's on the battlefield. One's going to flip when the other one sacks. Does the token get generated? Is what I think they were asking in that situation. It looks like it stays around, but still pretty good. 3-for-1 in that instance.
The Kozilek's return, absolutely huge. You called it out earlier as being huge in the matchup, and it was clutch right there. I think you were able to respond to the trigger, so Noah Johnny gets to transform into a planeswalker, but then you get the token. But here's the thing: as good as that was for Brandon, and it was great, Fable's still going to transform next turn. There's still a Blood Moon in play. I guess for what it's worth, you just took 3 off the ring, right?
Yeah.
There's a bombardment from Ted to continue to point more damage at your face. You do kind of need to turn the corner here and get going before you find yourself in some weird situation where you end up getting burned out by a combination of your own ring plus goblin bombardment from Ted.
Yeah, remember the secret element of the Kozilek's return. It can come back out of that graveyard if we play a big Eldrazi at some point.
That's right.
We're just going to add another talisman there. Grip full of cards, though. Surely.
Yeah, when you cast a big Eldrazi, you can play the Kozilek's return from your graveyard, which then will resolve, I believe, the point.
It supercharges it, right? Like 5 damage?
Yeah, I believe it does 5, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that will, of course, happen before the big Eldrazi comes into play.
Brand's in the tank. So many options because we've got so many cards. Not as much mana as they'd like, though. That Blood Moon is doing work right now. I'm going to play a mountain. Access to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mana left of the turn. 1 card in hand for Ted. So what are we thinking of here? Are we thinking of deploying more threats? Another ring, maybe?
I think he's probably counting up how he dies, right? Like he's got to be doing the math on how do I not take 11 damage through the rest of this game. I didn't just draw another ring, which would have made things easy, right? Like if that's the case, I obviously we don't know what's in his hand, but like if you draw another ring, maybe it's easy. You just get to slam the 1 ring. You don't have to worry about getting burned from Ted or on your upkeep. But if that's not the case, then the math gets kind of wonky, and you want to think about it, right? So, that's what he's thinking through here. He's got a lot of cards. He doesn't want to screw it up. It feels like when you have the 1 ring at 4 counters, you're supposed to win the game. But how to do that through a Blood Moon? Not quite as simple.
Do we have any main deck answers to Blood Moon? I can see 2 Besajus and all is
We
dust.
might be discarding.
So what?
Yep.
Oh, so if we're discarding, we thinking
Pass the
maybe.
turn.
Next, we would through the breach that turn if we had it right. If we had through the breach Emrakul, we would have just done it.
Surely, yeah, surely. So, like his hand, we don't know what's in, but it's got to be some kind of awkward combination of cards that both allowed him to play nothing, or he's just going to. He does have access to 2 talismans, so that's 2 colorless. Could be firing off like a command or something here, right?
I do see a Emrakul in hand. That's at the front of the hand. Second Blood
He
Moon.
also might have been counting. At some point, you play command, and then you just cast your Emrakul with mana.
just the old fashioned way. Just tap 15 mana.
I think that point might be right now.
So 5 Eldrazi spawns. That gives us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think if we've got a land drop, we can hard cast it using these spawn now.
What a use for Kozilek's command, huh?
I like it. I like it.
Yeah, think about the Tron match we watched earlier. How much mana each player had, and how back and forth it went. Even at that point, what's the best thing to spend your mana on? It's OG Emrakul.
So the only thing stopping Brandon winning right now is the blockers, right? Like if we had a way of getting these 2 blocks off the battlefield, we could through the breach the Emrakul to also attack with the sowing. That would be 18 damage.
Right, but the block on the sower would, in theory, keep Ted alive, and I guess, I mean, the Annihilator 6 in theory would be enough, even if it's not technically enough. It's hard to see if that's what happens here. Brandon feels like he's in a great spot because remember, when you hardcast Emrakul, you take an extra turn, which is he's just going to untap and have all the cards in his hand again. He can probably get rid of the blocker.
There is, yeah. If we could maybe hear me out. We hard cast Emrakul. We take another turn. I was going to say probably die to our ring at this point, but we then untap.
That's the map, right?
We have an Ulamog. We hard cast the Ulamog, get the blockers out the way, and turn everything sideways.
I think we're going to get there. I see it through the breach in hand for Brandon.
Through the breach. 1, 2, 3, 4. And using our forest. Oh, okay. Ulamog. So and there's 15. So it gets plus 15, plus 15, Annihilator 15. Yes, let's do it. I'm so down for this. It's unreal. The fact when you need to get a D20 out to put the amount of counters on a creature, I'm here for it. Sack your board, hit you for 22 points of damage. We're going to a game number 2, doing it in fashion there over on Brandon's side. We're there talking about just hard cast Emrakuls like idiots. Why are we doing that?
I guess so. I mean, look, they probably both accomplished the same thing, but we were still having to think about it when we were talking about hard cast Emrakul with what he did. You just got there. No questions asked. That was fairly impressive from the Gruul breach deck, right? And he's 3-0. He's now up a game. I'm sorry, they're tied at a game after that. We're going to be taking you down into game 3 so we can see who picks that one up. But yeah, this is a big opportunity for a deck that was not necessarily on anyone's radar to move to 4-0.
Yeah, a lot of people were like, I think it was Jarvis Yu was playing this a lot a couple of weeks ago, really tearing up the leagues on MTGO. Like it was just like back-to-back 5-0s all the time because people just weren't expecting something this explosive from a Tron deck. Normally you think they're going to get a lot of mana.
Right.
I say a Tron deck, Energizer deck, they're going to get a lot of mana and play a lot of big. This one's just like, no, I can get it out as early as turn 3, maybe even turn 2. I'd have to work the mana out. I think turn 2 it can actually be done. Turn 2 and Emrakul at someone, it comes out of knowing, I wasn't expecting it. But let's have a little look at how it's going to go as we get down to game number 3. As you mentioned, both players want that 4-0 start to the tournament today. It is 8 rounds of modern action. Before we cut to that top 8, Ragavan, make a treasure, turn 2, Blood Moon, go. Ted,
pretty good.
I'm here for it.
Yeah, pretty good. Now, if you're Brandon, the silver lining is that you have a forest, so you can play some green spells if you need to. But you can't have any colorless, which is maybe what you need more. Has access to red. One of the nice things about playing it through the breach deck, and I've done this many times with various brews, is that you can still cast through the breach through a blood moon. What you can't do is stop this. This is just so ideal for Ted. Guide of Souls, Ragavan, Amperaptor. The beatdown is coming
This
along
is the
with the blood
nuts.
moon.
This is the nuts. I'm pretty sure that energy should be gone though, right? It's free energy to cast the Flage. It might not. I don't think it's going to be relevant in this game. I'm just saying,
I
but
didn't catch it. Sorry.
I think
Yeah.
it's basically we did the perfect turn of Guide Souls into Raptor, stack card triggers, gain the extra energy, gain the extra life. Then we hit the Flage with the free energy that we had. So we realistically should be one energy down, but this is a time warp match, so I don't think we can rewind it. I don't think it's going to take too much drama here. More importantly, is there's a blood bin on the battlefield, a Ragavan that's not been checked, and now a Guide of Souls and Amp Raptor. This might be the best free you could opening you can have on turn 3.
Yeah, I would say so. And interesting, there's been a lot of discourse, including us talking about it some of it earlier, like
Chat's
how
pointing out.
Ragavan is a lot worse than it used to be in the modern format. But wow, did it look good this game?
So we're going to go find ourselves a land. Chat pointed out, yeah. So basically, the Flage comes into play to deal the damage. That also gains the extra energy.
Yes.
That's
Yeah,
where the energy's from. Chat's so big brain all the time. Don't know what we do about your chat. Pass the turn back, but now there is a free blocker on the other side of the battlefield.
Yeah, Brandon going to try to climb back in this, still at 13 life. Not the worst as far as your life total goes. I don't see the hand to see what we're looking at here. Lightning Bolt's going to take out the blocker, though. So unfortunately, that unlocks Ragavan again to connect. And here comes Ocelot. Just full on Boros energy beatdown.
The awkward bit is you gain the life as well when it enters, so that bit's been triggered already. You get in there, you get your 5 points of damage in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Well, we've got 2 treasures. City Blessing's going to be on as well, so we're going to generate more treasures. We're going to generate more cat tokens.
Yeah.
And a Johnny this time would be disgusting. If that's
and what's wild is this is the part of the game where if you're the breach player, you're like, wow, God, this sucks. I'm behind, blah, blah, blah. And you're always in this spot where you either have breach in hand and you're like, if I draw Emrakul, I can still win. Or you have Emrakul. Well, I can always just still draw breach and win. What's wild is that's actually not the case here because this is not maybe the modern a few years ago where people are always dealing themselves 6 damage with their fetch shock openers. On top of that, though, Ted just has enough permanence to sacrifice to the Annihilator 6 on turn 3 or 4 without it being a problem.
I think there should be an extra treasure token added there, but it's fine. It's not going to be too relevant in this. I think we are Kozilek's return, and we need like this turn. While there's no counters floating around, we need that one-sided sweeper ASAP.
Yeah, I am curious what Brandon's hand, because look at the cards that have been exiled through the breach and Emrakul. He could very easily be sitting on through the breach. He just flips over that Emrakul and goes, I was right on top. But the mind games Ragavan can play on you. The psychic damage inflicted can last beyond the round.
I'm sure someone out there is probably cast a Emrakul off a Ragavan hit somewhere. I'm trying to think what's like my best. I've managed to cast a Khan before against Tron, like hit their Khan and play it.
Yeah, it's a very
against
good
Control. I was able to hit a Teferi when I was on Murktide against Control. That was pretty good. It was like turn 2 Teferi. They're like, yep, cool, that's game. Right. We're thinking, of course, everyone's on the line for this. Both players have got one game, but they want the match. They want that 4-0 start. Flute is what's going to happen in response by the looks of it. Now,
I think that was probably Ted asking if he'd get priority after the reveal off of Ancient Stirrings. The answer is no. So we're going to Flute in response to Stirrings.
Well, Ring will buy us a turn. I'm going to have a look. Do we have... There's 1 Bone Crusher Giant, 2 Bone Crusher Giants I can see in the 75. So,
okay,
if they've come in,
yeah, we talked earlier about how important the ring was to decks like this as a bridge. This is it for Brandon. This is exactly the situation where the ring is good. The problem for him is that Through the Breach Emrakul, in fact, does not get it done right now. He's going to need to go a little bigger.
I think we need a sweeper first. Like the first step is a sweeper. So if we've got, I count 6 mana. If we can go land All Is Dust, and there isn't a Goblin Bombardment drawn for the turn or a Bone Crusher this turn, we might be able to get back into this game.
An Ulamog might also work, right? There's an Emrakul in exile, so it would get plus 15.
That's 20. That's 22 damage though.
Yeah, that would annihilate the board.
The Annihilator is probably the thing that wins you. That's true.
Yeah, like the Annihilator 6 from Emrakul doesn't get you there, but Annihilator, whatever, however Ted and for Ted's permanence might. So the game is in a really interesting spot here. The ring was an amazing draw for Brandon to try to keep things going. And if you're Ted, I guess you just keep turning them sideways. You kind of have everything you've wanted, and you just want to keep going. Now, we think the flute is probably naming the ring. Do we assume, or what do we?
Yeah, I imagine it's on the ring.
Okay, so if you're Brandon, then you're just looking at the top of your deck then for an answer here. Yep.
Okay, land or is that
breach?
That's a breach.
Ulamog in hand, and we got a very interesting spot.
Named Kozilek's
Return.
But not All Is Dust. So here's All Is Dust, sacrifice all colored permanents. That includes that Blood Moon.
Wow, what a play.
Whole board. That one ring stalling for a turn was great.
Well, and the flute we got info is named, it's naming Kozilek's Return because it's an activated ability from or a triggered ability, I guess, from maybe it's an activated ability from the graveyard. I don't know. That's what it's naming. Or maybe it just says it can't be cast. Either way, the flute is taking care of the return. It does not take care of the All Is Dust. That was the huge play for Brandon right there. So he is in a great spot.
Yeah, ring at the perfect time, right? Like literally the perfect time to draw that one ring. Stalls us for the turn so we can get to our 7th mana, so we can then, and the kicker here for Ted. Goblin Bombardment was the top card. In that situation there, would have probably either we would have won the game or at least been very close to it, giving us a few more top decks. But yeah, this is pretty brutal. Land from the
fascinating game though. This one looked very much over. Brandon hitting the perfect sweeper, able to cast it, the ring keeping him alive. And I guess if you're Ted, you're just trying to poke through 8 points of damage here. Flage is a pretty good way to do it.
But I say Flage, that's the second Flage in the graveyard. So there is lots of ways of being able to do it. That's going to drop Brandon down to 5. Fetch. I think we got basic planes. And the last card's Giganta, right? Oh, we got all the treasure tokens.
Yeah.
Because they don't have a color source, so we can play it back out of the graveyard. Brandon going to go down to 2. He's been put in the situation, needs another answer to take this game, or to stabilize this game, in fact, not even take it. We know about the Through the Breach. We know there's an Emrakul in exile. Can we hit an Ulamog? How many playing in the deck?
He needs something great too, because Flage, even just say removing Flage, whatever, Doomblading Flage, it'll just come back later and finish you off. So well,
there's a
as good as Brandon was, the Flage was the perfect answer here for Ted to try to. We talk about it, the Flage it's great against other creature decks because it Lightning Helixes. It's great it provides reach in situations like this. It is a pretty incredible card for the modern format, and certainly for these Boros decks.
If we can rip an Ulamog here, I think that's what we need, right? And we can get a Stirrings to try and find it. That's a land. Kozilek's. Oh, Kozilek's. Do we have enough mana to do Kozilek's exile a creature, exile graveyard? 1, 2.
Okay, now you're talking.
Are these Eldrazi temples? So is that 4 mana, 5, 6, 7 mana? We need 8 mana to do this. Oh no, we need it's 3 mana. We need 5 mana to do this. You're telling me there's a line. I love it. I get so excited when I kind of like watch these decks. They're so close. Like you're so close to winning. Can you get across the line, or will they be able to stabilize it? This is why I love live paper Magic And that is why NRG brings you the best coverage there is, ladies and gentlemen. So if you don't hit the follow button, make sure you do, because tomorrow we've also got a team event, Legacy, Modern, Pioneer, but there'll be more talk about that throughout the weekend. Let's see what else. Do we have to go? I don't think we're forced to go a card depot with Ring just yet.
Yeah, that's the big decision point, right? Left at this juncture for Brandon at 2 life is whether or not you want to activate that ring, because you're going to get 1 card with that ring, and then you're on the ring clock. And that ring clock is very, very, very short. So that is an absolute last resort, right? Doesn't mean you won't have to do it, but it is not where you want to be. In this case, right? And that's why the ring is so for everything the ring is. It does make for interesting situations like this where it can kind of be counted on occasionally to poke through a few points of damage. This is a big spot for both these players in the tournament because 3-1 versus 4-0. You get to 4-0, you're getting very close to
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
the
7,
back half of the
8,
day. There it
9.
is, the Kozilek's command.
So we're doing this for 9. One of the modes we're making. Have we got a second one in hand? Are we trying to go for the win this turn? We're thinking if we can find an Unamog in the top 9 cards here, we can just breach it.
Saw several through breaches. Is there a ring?
That's a ring, double breach. Didn't get a good look at what that back card was.
Now, ring here, that having Kozilek's command here was just absolutely massive for Brandon, because this is going to allow you to reset a lot of things.
I suppose if you draw the ring, if you put the ring in your hand, you can draw with the ring that's currently on the battlefield and go card deeper, because you're just going to reset it anyway. And if that is an Ulamog, you can also have that option on the table.
Yeah, and worst case scenario, at that point, you've just played the ring and you get to try it all again next turn. It could be a lot worse.
Okay, so he likes the top 2 cards. So we did draw with the ring. It's an All Is Dust and the ring.
Yeah, so all this stuff's actually not good enough for Brandon here. If I, at least assuming Ted has enough cards to escape Flage again.
Okay, so we are going to cast the 1 ring, reset it. Protection is gained. That's the key part right now.
All right, so now we're kind of back where we started. Brandon spent some mana, is faced with a choice of whether or not he's going to activate the ring and play that game. And Ted desperately wishes that his deck still played lightning bolts.
I think he's still got a few in there.
Or rather, yeah, if he can find one, if his deck can serve him up a lightning bolt, he'll have it. That's what he is hoping for right now. And I guess Gigantha is a pretty reasonable option. Look at that. He's going to ping Gigantha with Flage to get the life.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. That might be apparent if double Emrakul gets thrown at you. Okay, we are going to tap end of turn. Go a card deep. That means our upkeep, we're going to drop down to 1 life. Another.
Yeah, and that's a big one there for Brandon, because obviously that puts him on the ring clock, but it allows him to get 1 card there, which means he gets 2 cards now. And you need to find another ring, or obviously a way to answer that.
I think we found a command, but that doesn't deal with the ring. Can we command again for a bunch to try and look at the X top cards of our deck to try and get this
Yeah,
Ulamog? But then Ulamog, we're at 32 now. 32 is not 20. 32, we can only do 22 damage.
well, you're right. And the
Annihilator
doesn't matter because the ring will still kill you.
Yeah. We're digging to try and find that other ring, I think. None of them are it.
No, he did not look thrilled about that. He's going to reveal an Eldrazi Temple.
That is 2 mana towards the Kozilek's, though. So we can, if we can go deeper, leaving 4 mana up. What have we got? Well, the Eldrazi on the battlefield is ring mana, right?
Well, and that's the thing to think about too is like there's only so many cards in his deck. He's now looked through five of them, plus he drew 3 or whatever between the. So he's looked at 8 or 9 cards, and he has more mana this turn than he had last turn. Even that Ancient Stirrings ended up producing mana since it found a soul land. So this next Kozilek's command to go look through his deck is going to be for a massive amount.
Yeah, the first one I think was for 9. So 9 put 2 on top, so that's 7.
Right.
Draw, so that's 9.
So about
Draw
time he's going to
10.
be through, like, he's going to be looking at what, 25 cards or so from the top of his deck, and he's looking for, we thought Ulamog. Now I guess we're thinking the ring. But
So
it's
I
just, the
think
point is he gets to see, this gives these decks an element of not tutoring exactly, but you get to very reliably dig to find something that will be good for you. Look at that. Now we're up to 13
top
spawns.
13 cards, put them back in any order, top, bottom of your deck, then draw the top one. And we've got a bunch of mana. We didn't hold up red mana, though.
Well, I think I saw a talisman in hand. He actually can't pay the life. Huh.
Yeah.
Huh. That is an interesting spot without a blood moon in play.
Did we also miss and not hit a ring?
I see a
think-
Kozilek's command.
I think we are going to die to our own ring.
Can't make red mana.
There's the Ulamog we've been looking for.
Can't make red mana without paying life. But he's already played a land. I think it's over.
There is a cost to the one ring. Putting them all to the bottom, leaving it to the top of his deck. Was it the ring? Was it? No way.
No way.
No. Flip it. Flip it.
Oh, no.
Oh. Oh, the smile on his face gave it away. Oh, literally 13 cards to the bottom, flip top card. It is the one ring, the card that saves you in this spot for a turn.
What? Well, look, that's huge because now he's going to be able to do something with that mana. It was massive. And now the thing is, the ring doesn't kill him. He's not on the ring clock anymore. He is still on the flage clock as soon as he's a tap. But what a draw for Brandon. And we talked about he's going to see so many cards of his deck. He has to find it eventually, right? Well, he did. He put 13 on the bottom, and it was the 14th one. All right, well, here we go. Flage coming in. This will get rid of him, but Brandon still has another turn. Now, I just want to clarify, though. He needs specifically Grove of the Burn Willows, which he should have access to now. Everything else costs him 1 life to make red mana.
He drew another ring for the turn. So top 2 cards, a double ring. Draws off the first ring. That is an Ulamog.
Okay, so if he's able to play Ulamog and the ring here, he should probably get there, right?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So yeah, we've got access to 17 mana. We can pretty much leave Ted with no permanence. I guess Ted's got Mountain in hand. If it's Mountain Lightning Bolt.
It's Lightning Bolt or bust for Ted. What a game.
This has been extremely back and forth.
Well played by both players, of course, but I want to Brandon really got deep into the weeds of that one ring. And returns he didn't activate it early where he probably could have and save himself some damage. I think that Brandon played the one ring very well in this game.
How are we going to go about there's all in dusts in there as well? One rings, got all the tools. Just how are we going to deploy them to turn this into a W in advance? We have a 4-0 record as we hit the midway point of today's tournament.
I guess Goblin Bombardment, the second copy of Goblin Bombardment for Ted might be an out.
No, we're not going to have any permanents left.
Oh, you're right. If this ends in Ulamog, then it's nothing. Yeah, it'd be land Mountain Bolt. Mountain Bolt.
Mountain is
Mountain Bolt is right, I guess. But yeah,
that's what I mean. I think, but then the ring will come down, so you will have protection. So it's going to have to be upkeeps. Here's the breach.
Through the breach.
Here's a 22/22 with Annihilator 15. Let's just count those permanents 1 second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Not even close.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and just pick all those up, Ted?
Get them out of here.
Ted actually, I guess, could have. Did Ted have an Arid Mesa there?
Hold on. So
I think it might have catch it.
So cast the one ring. So that takes us to 11. We cast the one ring, gain protection. Ted rips lightning bolt, goes land, passes turn, upkeep, lightning bolts, wins the game. Is that what we're doing?
I believe so. That's why I asked if you had an Arid Mesa there, right? I didn't catch it, but
No. I literally think it is basic mountain left in hand for Ted.
in hand. I meant in play. Yeah, to see if you had a fetch there to clear out the odds of your lightning bolt. The old one time where deck thinning would have been relevant, you know.
So
all right, here we go. Brandon adding more to the board, but what an ending. Ted has an out or two, right? We don't know how many are left in the deck.
I think we've seen one lightning bolt, so I think it's 2 lightning bolts left in deck. If none got sideboarded out, which is completely reasonable to board them out in this game.
Yeah.
All right.
That's why I didn't. Here we go.
Big draw step. Didn't look at what it was. Is it a handshake or is it a land go?
All right.
Okay. I think it's land. But at 11 life, we're not dead just yet.
That's a good point. You might have another draw at this.
I see talisman, all is dust, and land in hand for Brandon. So just getting in there for 6. This is going to drop Ted down to 5, down to 4 with this fetch. Thin the deck a little bit.
There we go.
We've also got outs of Bone Crusher Giant with 2 land. Dash Ragavan doesn't get there.
Brandon had the miracle top deck. Can Ted return it?
Amp Raptor flipping one of the cards that we've named to get there as well. Oh my god! It's lightning bolt! Oh my god! Oh my god! If you got what?
He flips it right off the top. No hesitation. He knows the stage he's on, and he gives us the perfect ending, the lightning bolt to save the day and win the game.
Whoa. That is a highlight game right there. I'm emotional. I don't know why. Why am I emotional about that?
Well, look, we went back and forth in game 1. We popped in for game 3. We had a miracle top deck in game 3. We had crazy tight decisions with the one ring. What an amazing match. And it ends in the absolute highlight reel, movie scene moment right there. What a match. Great work, Will. Nice job to those players for an incredible match down there.
That is why we watch live paper magic. It is amazing. Right. I need a break. I need a break. You need a break. Production needs a break. Everyone in chat needs a break. Go tell your friends. Go watch that back on the highlight reel. That is amazing. So that's is the last match of round number 4. So we are going to have that break and come back for round number 5. Don't go anywhere. See you shortly.